Welcome back to the Dairugger Hangar. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about the Action Toys mini vehicle Voltron, and it is interesting. They've done quite a bit with it with articulation. There's a whole lot more to it, but it's different than I expected. So there are some, I would say, issues, but it's having to do with so small and all the complexity they put into this. But I'm going to talk about this. I did get this at well, Show Z, Gundam It. I'll have a link down below where you can get yours. But let's take a look at this vehicle Voltron from Action Force. I'll tell you the good and the bad and let you know exactly what you're getting into. But I'm happy I bought it, and we'll talk about this coming up. All right, here is the packaging, the box. You see all of the different modes that they can form, and vehicle force. There we go with the back showing you everything. All 15 of them. Good stuff. All right, so I'm going to start out by saying that these are tiny. And I wasn't ever a fan of these groups where they would be in like the air, sea, and land modes. I never was a fan of that, but I'm going to start out putting them in it because it shows it, and I'm never going to put them back in it again. I never messed with it with the vintage one at all, really. And with this one here, it's pretty self-explanatory. You do have to pull tabs out on the cars to plug them in. And this one here does retain this side block gimmick thing when you plug it in. And honestly, I still don't even know these looks like thigh pieces that they would have that are on there. I just popped them off, and I don't see that we're going to need them for either mode. So it's just strange that they even included that. But anyhow, there it is in the air, sea, and land. Also, they're really lightweight. I thought there'd be some die-cast in them because, I mean, Action Toys had die-cast in their GoBots that they made, machine robos, but no die-cast in these. But I want to say it feels pretty good for being so tiny, and I'm already feeling like it's going to have a lot of articulation compared to anything we've had before, so I'm going to forgive it as long as it works out all in the end. I think it will, but let's go ahead and get into breaking these down and starting to form Voltron, you know, all 15 of those. Get the box out of the way. Alright, so we're going to get started here with these legs. You just pull this apart. You, I guess, set the torso off to the side. Alright, so we're going to have these. You flip this out, flip it around, and you'll have a peg. Same thing over here. Flip it out, flip it around. You'll have a peg, and I'm going to try to make sure it matches the box. That's all I'm really concerned about here. Then we're going to pop the feet off, and we're going to come down here to put the feet on. Okay, yellow foot on red leg, so you get the correct articulation. Make sure we get it right. So it's got to be that way for articulation. And you're actually plugging it into a hole more than a slot. You will slide these back together. So we've got legs formed. I formed a leg. And then pull these forearms off. And then plug in to here. Plug into here. Plug it in very well. This is going to have articulation to it, so let's make sure we get it tabbed in really good. All right, make sure I got the correct one on the correct side. I think I had them backwards, but correct one on the correct side so they fit in just right and look good. Next, we need to put this piece on, and we want to have the ab crunch correct. So the part that's moving needs to be on top, so you have the ab crunch correct. There's that. Is there no heel spur on these guys? Then we'll move it up, camera up a bit, and continue building this guy. Now, this part here, untab that. So it's tabbed into the bottom one. Now you're going to tab it into this top slot here. And be very careful. I've already knocked this wing. Oh, knocked it off again. So, all right. Fiddly. I'm going to do this off camera because I can't see it. It's just so small. You tab, so there's a slot in the top and the bottom. It's reversed for that other mode, which isn't really that big of a deal. Let's slot this guy on here like this. And then what it appears that you're going to do is untab this. And I guess just throw that aside or something. I don't know what they were thinking about that. But which one I'm going to put the blue one on here. So then it's also pull this off. So it's a lot of part movement here. And then you're going to slide this in. And you want to have the notch forward so you have that right there going on. So slide this off here, put this on to here, and you have articulation. And then we need to do the head. So pop this piece off, which let me just pop the head off. I just want to get that off there so I can get the face in. Come on, there it goes. And then, of course, the eye form, the head moment. Come on. It's not really a big deal on the vehicle one, but an eye form the head. I'm a Lionbot guy, actually. But I jump at every chance to get a vehicle one because you just don't get that many of them. Then you can put his sword in his... Can you put a sword in his hand? Or do you have to get a special sword-holding hand? Sword in his sword-holding hand. Swap out the hand. Let's do that now. And then we can take a look at this guy. Here he is. Come on, Abcrunch. Hold in place. There he is in all of his splendor and built and ready to go. So now that I got him built, I want to stress something here. I think these are all just extra parts and pieces. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if there's something I'm supposed to do with them. Or stick them in a baggie or in a drawer or back in the box or whatever. I might have that part wrong. But that's the way I'm viewing it on those. They'll go in a baggie or something. Then you have all of these hands. So you have a splayed hand, which it's splayed, but it's got a piece here that looks like you can do something with it, which I probably should look into that. Does it hold something? That's kind of interesting. It's got a splayed hand with this piece. It's got the same thing on the other side too. So maybe it will hold onto something. Here is a fist for both sides that I've already taken off. And then you can hold the sword on this. And there's no shield or anything, so you just get a sword, which I believe is just kind of normal, but that's what that comes with. So let's get a look at this guy. Alright, let's just be honest here. Feels kind of cheap. It does. Very lightweight, kind of cheap. The ab crunch is a bit of a pain. It's not perfect. But what matters, in my opinion, is the fact that it's... Well, if you're buying this scale... You're not buying it as your main Voltron. It's like an extra side project kind of deal you got going on there. But let's get into articulation, so you'll be able to do some stuff with this you can't do. Because I have another one in this scale, by the way, and we'll compare it here. So the head, side to side, up and down, ball jointed. It's everything you would need for a Voltron head. Shoulder goes out to there, which actually is pretty good. And that's incorporating some torso engineering. You got a 360. And I will admit that the shoulder holds really well. Bicep swivel. Not a double jointed elbow, but goes really far. And then the hands don't just turn. They actually come out a bit so that they can do a lot. And yeah, I did pop that out. But this joint in here comes out so that they can do a little bit more. Don't know how to explain that, but they fall off if you pull them out too far. So, but you can do quite a bit with them. More than just a standard ball joint, because it has an extension in there. So I mean, hey, it feels cheap, but there's some cool stuff they did with it. Be real careful with these. I pop both of them off, so you can get that out of the way to get more of your articulation if you want to. And yes, this leg keeps falling off on me, which I'm sure I can get it up there just a little bit deeper, and it'll stay in there. Enjoy staying there. Here's the ab crunch, which it kind of crunches on its own. I have played with that quite a bit, but I don't know if that has something to do with me. Or waist swivel, so you can have a waist swivel on this guy. That works fine. I really busted up my nail trying to get a piece of this out too. That was actually way easier to get out than it should have been. Okay, thigh swivel, which this is getting real loose, and it's just swivels on itself. And then, yeah, I'm having some trouble with that. Okay, I'm having trouble with this because I just didn't push them in far enough. So you got to push them in, and you got to get that snap. And it doesn't feel like material-wise it could handle that much. But anyway, okay, so I got it in there now. So that's me. It goes out to the side, and I'm afraid, but it goes that far to the side, maybe even further. It's tight. It's real tight. So it's kind of one of those things, like this area is really tight, and I just don't feel like the materials can handle what I feel like the pressure I have to do to, A, push it in, which now I've pushed it in really tight instead of loose. And I feel like I can push it in tighter on this side too. Then you can go this far forward. So the fact my legs were falling out is probably not 100% on the production of this. It's partially on me afraid to push it in that far. But yeah, you don't get back much. So interesting. Okay, knee articulation to here. And now that I've got it pushed in, its swivel is a much different swivel. Interesting. And then I'm always used to this piece moving too as part of the articulation. So you do get the double joint, but that breaks it up. Anyway, you don't really need to go that far. Feet side to side. And got the ankle tiltage, and it is built-in ankle tiltage with the bottom of the leg there. So, I mean, it's got a lot of articulation, a lot of stuff that they've done here, but make sure you push these thighs in really hard. It's scary how hard I had to push them in, but then it'll hold, and it'll get everything you need in all of your poses, except it really doesn't. Can you get both arms on? Popped it out. Trying to get both arms on that sword. And you can. You just gotta, it takes a little time. Try not to pop every part off. Now for some comparisons to some Voltron stuff. This, I guess, I'm gonna have to do some other comparisons too, so people understand how the size is. This is the one I thought it was gonna be like the exact same size of, but this one's a little taller. Well, quite a bit taller. Now this is that cheap one you got at like Tuesday mornings. Tuesday morning went bankrupt. But I want to show that it was almost an exact knockoff KO undersize of the original. This is a whole reimagining of the whole situation, and I guess I need to put that back up there. I didn't do that. And I will say, design-wise and just the direction it went, it looks so much more like cartoon and more advanced and more something we'd get with the modern era, but it is small. And you don't get many. I don't have many. I think I only have like 4 or 5 different types of vehicle Voltrons out there. But this would be probably the best comparison to, say, a vintage one. Because the vintage one here, everything's almost exactly the same. Like, they got the wheels there and all that kind of stuff. And so that would be the comparison to that. So this is considerably smaller. So when I first bought it, I thought, and I know you can do the measurements. They tell you how tall it is. You could have just been like, oh, yeah, you knew it was going to be that short, Mike. So why'd you think it was taller than that? And then let's bring in something else. Super 7 made a Lion Bot. And so there's that. So that's how that scales if you're interested in seeing all of that. And then moving it out, we can see and I'm going to put in the Earthrise Optimus Prime here. So people kind of have an idea what an Earthrise Optimus Prime, how tall he is. Just kind of trying to get him in the middle, the mix with all this. There he is. And then I think it's actually more in line with the red size. Now this is all mixing different properties. I mean, these are not really meant to go together, but there it is. Crazy stuff, huh? All right, so what I think of this thing, I think that they did a lot of stuff in a small figure and lots of articulation, not just in the joints, but in the actual hip areas, and the articulation was thought out. It was thought out, planned out, and it's got some articulation to it. I do have some issues with several parts popping off, but they all pop back on, as you can see, and he's able to display. My ab crunch is a little bit loose, which is annoying, but overall, it looks fantastic. It's smaller than I thought it'd be. I wish it had some die cast. It's got some paint, quite a bit of paint on it actually, which is probably what makes that price point up a little bit higher. I do feel like it's more of a $50 figure than a $65 figure, and with that, it's only because there's so many components that connect that make it up to be what it is. And yes, it does feel way more sophisticated than that cheap one I showed in a comparison. But I did get this at Gundam, which is a subsidiary. Well, it's Show Z that sells the action figures. I'm not sure why this was a Gundam purchase, but I'll have a link down below where you can get yours. And let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Like, subscribe, Titanium Hanger out.